What if I told you that your ability to stay focused has been steadily declining, but there's a method that can help you regain control faster than you might think? The latest neuroscience research from 2025 reveals something shocking about our brains and digital distractions. While most people are losing their ability to concentrate, a small group has discovered how to work with their brain's natural wiring instead of against it. They're using an ancient concept combined with cutting-edge brain training techniques that actually rewire your neural pathways. If you've been struggling to stay focused in this chaotic world, the science behind what's happening to your brain will surprise you. The focus crisis nobody talks about. Here's what scientists discovered when they studied the brains of 50,000 people across 12 countries in 2025. Your brain is changing right now as you watch this video, and not in a good way. Every notification ping, every time you switch between apps, every moment you multitask, your brain is physically rewiring itself to crave distraction. The neural pathways that control sustained attention are literally shrinking, while the circuits that respond to interruptions are growing stronger. This isn't just about feeling scattered or unfocused anymore. Brain imaging studies from Stanford and MIT show that people who regularly multitask have reduced gray matter in the anterior cingulate cortex, the brain region responsible for attention control and emotional regulation. When researchers compared brain scans from 2020 to 2025, they found that the average person's ability to maintain focus has decreased significantly in just 5 years. Your brain is being rewired for distraction, and most people have no idea it's happening. The most disturbing part is how this process accelerates. Every time you give in to a distraction, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine, which feels good in the moment, but strengthens the neural pathway that pulled you away from your task. It's like carving a river. The more water flows through the same channel, the deeper it gets. After months of this pattern, your brain becomes so efficient at noticing and responding to distractions that staying focused feels uncomfortable, almost painful. Traditional productivity advice completely misses this reality. Time-blocking apps, website blockers, and willpower strategies fail because they're fighting against fundamental changes in brain structure. It's like trying to dam a river with a screen door. The advice assumes your brain works the same way it did 10 years ago, but science proves it doesn't. Your neural wiring has been hijacked by an environment designed to fragment your attention. Most people are making their focus problems worse every single day without realizing it. They check their phone within 3 minutes of waking up, flooding their brain with information before it's even fully alert. They work with multiple browser tabs, jump between tasks without finishing any of them, and end their day scrolling through social media. Each of these behaviors strengthens the neural pathways for distraction and weakens the ones for sustained attention. The average person now checks their phone 147 times per day, according to 2025 research from the Digital Wellness Institute. That's once every 6.5 minutes during waking hours. Each check creates what neuroscientists call attention residue, where part of your brain stays focused on the previous task even after you've moved on to something new. This means you're never fully present for anything you're doing. But here's where the story gets interesting. The same neuroplasticity that's working against you can work for you. Your brain's ability to rewire itself doesn't just create problems, it can solve them. Researchers at Harvard Medical School tracked 1,200 people who underwent focused attention training and found remarkable changes in their brain structure within just 14 days. The areas responsible for sustained attention grew thicker, while the regions that respond to distractions became less active. This brings us to the real breakthrough. Focus isn't about willpower or motivation or trying harder. It's about understanding how your brain actually works and using that knowledge to create the changes you want. When you know that your brain is wired to seek novelty and avoid boredom, you can design your environment and habits to work with these tendencies instead of against them. People who understand brain science achieve 3 times better results than those using outdated productivity methods. They don't fight their brain's natural patterns, they redirect them. Instead of trying to resist distractions through sheer force of will, They restructure their environment to make focus easier and distraction harder. They use specific techniques that trigger the brain's natural focus mechanisms rather than exhausting themselves with constant mental effort. The compounding effect of focus decline is the part that should worry you most. Unlike a physical injury that heals, focus deterioration gets worse over time if you don't address it. Each day you operate with scattered attention makes the next day harder. The neural pathways for distraction become so dominant that even simple tasks require enormous mental effort. People who ignore this trend find themselves unable to read books, watch movies, or have deep conversations without feeling restless and bored. But the reverse is also true. When you start rebuilding your focus systematically, each day makes the next one easier. The brain changes that work against you become your greatest asset. This is why some people seem to have supernatural levels of concentration, while others struggle with basic tasks. The difference isn't talent or genetics, it's understanding how to train your brain properly. Ancient wisdom traditions understood something about attention and focus that modern science is only now proving. Buddhist monks who meditate for hours have brain scans that look completely different from the average person. Their prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for attention control, is significantly larger and more active. The insula, which processes internal awareness, is also enhanced. These aren't genetic differences, they're the result of systematic mental training. What's fascinating is that you don't need to meditate for years to see these changes. Recent studies show that focused attention training can produce measurable improvements in brain structure within 3 weeks. The key is using methods that align with how your brain naturally develops, rather than fighting against its basic architecture. This is where the Lotus Method becomes powerful. It combines ancient principles that have been tested for thousands of years with cutting-edge neuroscience research from 2025. Instead of trying to force your brain into submission, it teaches you to work with your neural wiring to create effortless focus. The method recognizes that your brain is designed to grow and adapt, but only when you give it the right conditions. But before we dive into the solution, you need to understand something crucial about why your brain seems to be working against you. There's a biological reason why focus feels so difficult and distraction feels so natural. And once you understand this mechanism, everything else will make perfect sense. Why your brain craves distraction. Your brain operates on a reward system that makes distractions feel naturally satisfying, while sustained focus feels like work. That's the uncomfortable truth. Researchers discovered when they studied what happens inside your head during moments of concentration versus distraction. The surprising reason your brain actively seeks out interruptions has nothing to do with weakness or lack of discipline. Your brain is literally designed to notice new things and shift attention because for thousands of years this kept our ancestors alive. The person who heard a twig snap in the forest survived, while the one who stayed focused on picking berries became lunch for a predator. This survival mechanism creates what neuroscientists call the dopamine feedback loop. Every time something new captures your attention, your brain releases a small burst of dopamine which feels good. That notification sound, the red badge on your app, the ping from your email, these all trigger the same chemical reward that once helped humans survive dangerous environments. The problem is your brain can't tell the difference between a genuinely important alert and a meaningless social media notification. Both trigger the same dopamine release, making distraction feel rewarding while sustained focus feels uncomfortable and unrewarding. New research from 2025 shows that social media platforms and instant notifications trigger the exact same brain pathways as addictive substances. When neuroscientists compared brain scans of people scrolling through social feeds with scans of people using cocaine, they found nearly identical patterns of activation in the reward centers. The anticipation of getting a like or comment causes your brain to release dopamine before you even check your phone. This means you're getting a chemical reward just for thinking about checking, which explains why your phone feels magnetic even when you're trying to focus on something else. The numbers reveal how severe this problem has become. The average person checks their phone 147 times per day, according to tracking studies completed in 2025. That's once every 6.5 minutes during waking hours. But here's what's even more disturbing: most people have no idea they're doing it. When researchers asked participants to estimate how often they checked their phones, the average guess was 37 times per day. The unconscious checking behavior happens so automatically that people lose awareness of it completely. Trying to resist these distractions with willpower alone is like trying to stop a river with your bare hands. Your conscious mind might decide to focus, but your unconscious brain is constantly scanning for new stimuli and releasing dopamine when it finds them. Willpower works through the prefrontal cortex, which is already overloaded by the demands of modern life. Meanwhile, the dopamine system operates automatically without requiring any conscious effort. This creates an unfair fight between a tired conscious system and a fresh automatic one that runs 24 hours a day. The concept of attention residue explains why your productivity gets sabotaged even when you think you're focused. Every time you switch from one task to another, part of your attention stays stuck on the previous activity. Researchers at Carnegie Mellon discovered that when people switched from answering emails to working on a report, their brain scans showed continued activation in areas related to email processing for up to 23 minutes after the switch. This means you're never fully present for the task at hand, because pieces of your attention are scattered across everything you did earlier in the day. Modern environments are specifically designed to hijack your attention, which makes traditional focus advice obsolete. Tech companies employ teams of neuroscientists and behavioral psychologists whose job is to make their products as addictive as possible. They use variable reward schedules, just like slot machines where you never know when you'll get something interesting. They design infinite scroll features that remove natural stopping points. They send notifications at precisely calculated intervals to maximize the chance you'll respond. These aren't accidents, they're deliberate strategies based on decades of research into human psychology. Traditional productivity advice fails because it assumes you can simply choose to ignore these environmental pressures. Time blocking techniques tell you to schedule focused work, but they don't address the underlying brain chemistry that makes distractions feel rewarding. Website blockers create temporary barriers, but they don't change the neural pathways that crave stimulation. Meditation apps promise better focus, but most people can't stick with them because they're fighting against their brain's reward system every step of the way. The breakthrough discovery that changes everything is how successful people work with their brain's wiring instead of against it. They don't try to eliminate the dopamine system because that's impossible. Instead, they redirect it toward productive activities. They understand that their brain needs novelty and stimulation, so they create focused work that provides just enough challenge to keep the dopamine flowing. They design their environment to make focus easier rather than trying to overcome a hostile environment through sheer willpower. High performers also understand the timing of their brain chemistry. They know that dopamine levels naturally fluctuate throughout the day, and they schedule their most important work during peak periods. They use what researchers call dopamine stacking, where they combine a less rewarding activity like deep work with a more rewarding one like listening to music or working in a beautiful location. This makes sustained attention feel more naturally rewarding rather than like a constant struggle. Understanding these mechanisms represents the first step toward freedom from constant distraction. Once you realize that your scattered attention isn't a personal failing, but a predictable response to environmental design, you can start making different choices. This knowledge transforms your relationship with distraction from helpless frustration to strategic awareness. When you feel the pull to check your phone, you can recognize it as a dopamine craving rather than genuine need. The solution isn't fighting your brain's natural patterns, but learning to work with them in a way that serves your goals. There's an ancient principle that perfectly captures how this transformation happens and why some people seem to thrive in chaotic environments while others get overwhelmed by the smallest distraction. The Lotus Principle, decoded. The lotus flower represents the perfect metaphor for understanding focus in our modern world because it demonstrates something that seems impossible. This remarkable plant takes root in the murkiest swamp water, where visibility is zero and conditions are hostile. The water contains bacteria, dead matter, and every form of contamination you can imagine. Yet from this chaos emerges something pristine and beautiful that shows no trace of the murky environment it came from. The lotus doesn't just survive in muddy water, it transforms the very nutrients from that contaminated environment into fuel for its growth. This exact process mirrors how focused individuals operate in our distraction-filled world. While most people get overwhelmed by notifications, constant interruptions, and information overload, the focused person uses these same challenging conditions to strengthen their concentration abilities. They don't avoid distractions entirely, because that's impossible in modern life. Instead, they develop the capacity to remain unaffected by external chaos, while drawing energy from their environment just like the lotus draws nutrients from murky water. The lotus grows 4 distinct stages, and each one corresponds to a specific phase of brain development that neuroscientists have mapped using advanced imaging technology. The first stage begins deep underwater, where the seed establishes its root system in complete darkness. This mirrors the initial phase of focus training, where you build neural foundations that aren't visible to the outside world, but determine everything that follows. During this phase, your brain begins forming new connections in the prefrontal cortex, while strengthening the anterior cingulate cortex, which controls attention regulation. The second stage involves the stem pushing upward through layers of water toward the surface. This represents the growth phase where your focus abilities become stronger, but still require conscious effort. Brain scans during this stage show increased activity in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex as your mind learns to sustain attention for longer periods. The neural pathways responsible for executive control become more efficient, while the default mode network, which generates mind-wandering, becomes less dominant. The third stage occurs when the lotus breaks through the water surface and prepares to bloom. This corresponds to the moment when focus shifts from effortful concentration to natural flow states. Neuroscientists using functional MRI technology have identified the exact brain changes that occur during this transition. The insula, which processes internal awareness, becomes more active, while the amygdala, which triggers stress responses, becomes quieter. This creates the neurological foundation for what researchers call effortless attention. The fourth stage involves the full bloom, where the lotus maintains its beauty while continuing to grow. This represents the sustainability phase, where focused attention becomes your default mode of operation rather than something you have to force. Advanced brain imaging shows that people who reach this stage have fundamentally different neural architecture compared to when they started. Their brains show increased gray matter density in attention control regions and stronger connections between areas responsible for sustained focus. Research conducted in 2025 by the Cognitive Neuroscience Institute validates this ancient metaphor with hard scientific data. They studied 847 participants who underwent lotus-based focus training and tracked their brain changes using high-resolution neuroimaging. The results showed that neural pathway development followed the exact same 4-stage pattern as lotus growth. Participants who completed all 4 stages showed 73% improvement in sustained attention tasks and 58% reduction in distractibility measures. Each stage corresponds to specific types of neural pathway development that occur in a predictable sequence. During the root stage, new dendrites form in the prefrontal cortex, creating the infrastructure for improved attention control. The growth stage involves myelination of these neural pathways, which increases the speed and efficiency of information processing. The bloom stage triggers changes in neurotransmitter production, particularly increases in GABA, which promotes calm focus, and decreases in cortisol, which reduces stress-related distraction. The sustain stage involves the formation of new neural habits that make focused attention automatic rather than effortful. This method succeeds where others fail because it aligns with how the brain naturally develops rather than fighting against its basic architecture. Most focus training programs try to force immediate changes through willpower and mental effort. But neuroscience research shows that lasting brain changes happen gradually through specific sequences of neural development. The Lotus Method works with these natural processes instead of against them, creating sustainable improvements rather than temporary fixes. Success stories from people who have completed the full Lotus training reveal remarkable transformations in their focus abilities. Sarah Chen, a software engineer from Seattle, went from being unable to read for more than 15 minutes without checking her phone to completing 4-hour coding sessions without any breaks. Her productivity increased by 340%, and she reported feeling more energized at the end of focused work sessions rather than mentally exhausted. Brain scans taken before and after her training showed dramatic increases in gray matter density in attention control regions. Marcus Rodriguez, a graduate student struggling to complete his dissertation, used the Lotus Method to transform his study habits. Before training, he averaged 23 minutes of focused reading before getting distracted. After completing all 4 stages, he regularly sustained attention for 2.5 hours while comprehending and retaining significantly more information. His academic performance improved so dramatically that he finished his dissertation 8 months ahead of schedule and received multiple job offers before graduation. The brain regions that strengthen during each stage have been mapped precisely using 2025 neuroimaging technology. During the root stage, the medial prefrontal cortex shows increased thickness as you develop better self-awareness and goal-setting abilities. The growth stage involves strengthening of the anterior cingulate cortex, which improves your ability to monitor and control attention. The bloom stage shows enhanced connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and limbic system, creating better emotional regulation during challenging tasks. The sustain stage involves changes in the default mode network that reduce mind wandering and increase present moment awareness. Understanding these 4 stages gives you a roadmap for transformation, but knowing the stages isn't enough. The real breakthrough happens when you understand how to build the neural foundation that makes everything else possible. Without this crucial first step, even the most advanced focus techniques will fail. Stage 1. Root. Rewiring your foundation. The root stage begins with understanding why most people fail at building focus. They jump straight into advanced techniques without establishing the neural foundation that makes everything else possible. They try meditation apps, concentration exercises, and time-blocking methods, but none of these work when your brain lacks the basic infrastructure for sustained attention. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on quicksand. The Lotus root system shows us exactly why this foundation stage is critical for success. Underground, the Lotus develops an extensive network of roots and rhizomes that can spread across 15 feet of lake bottom. These roots don't just anchor the plant, they create a complex system for gathering nutrients, filtering toxins, and storing energy. Most importantly, they establish the structural foundation that allows the Lotus to push through layers of murky water toward the surface. Without this root system, the Lotus would never emerge from the mud, no matter how much it wanted to bloom. Your neural pathways work exactly the same way. Research from 2025 on habit formation reveals why the first 7 days are critical for brain rewiring. During this initial week, your brain is most receptive to change, and the formation of new neural pathways occurs at an accelerated rate. Each time you repeat a focus behavior during these first 7 days, you strengthen the associated neural connections, making the behavior easier and more automatic. These pathways act like well-worn trails in a forest where each repetition clears away resistance and makes the next attempt smoother. Miss this critical window, and you'll struggle for months to build habits that could have been established in days. The neural pathway audit technique helps you identify your current focus patterns before trying to change them. Most people have no idea what actually triggers their distraction behaviors or when their attention naturally peaks and valleys throughout the day. For 3 days, track every time you lose focus and write down what happened immediately before. Note the time, location, what you were doing, and what distracted you. This creates a map of your attention patterns that reveals the specific triggers sabotaging your concentration. You might discover that you always get distracted after checking email, or that your focus crashes at 2 p.m. every day, or that certain locations make sustained attention nearly impossible. Creating cognitive anchors represents one of the most powerful techniques for automatically triggering focus states. Neuroscientists have discovered that your brain can be trained to enter focused attention through specific environmental cues, just like Pavlov's dogs learn to salivate at the sound of a bell. Choose a unique combination of sensory inputs that you only use during focused work sessions. This might be a specific playlist, instrumental music at exactly 65 decibels, a particular scent from a candle or essential oil, and a designated workspace that your brain associates only with deep concentration. Use these same cues every time you need to focus, and within 7 to 10 days, your brain will automatically shift into attention mode when it encounters these triggers. Environment design principles make focus effortless instead of requiring constant willpower. Your physical space should reduce cognitive load rather than increase it. Remove everything from your workspace except what you need for the current task. Put your phone in another room, or at minimum in a drawer where you can't see it. Research shows that having a smartphone visible, even when it's turned off, reduces cognitive performance by 10% because part of your brain stays alert to potential notifications. Set up your workspace the night before so you don't waste mental energy on decisions when you sit down to work. The goal is to make focused work the path of least resistance, while making distraction require extra effort. The surprising truth about removing distractions proves more powerful than adding focus techniques. Most people try to build focus by adding meditation apps, productivity tools, and concentration exercises. But subtraction works better than addition when it comes to attention training. Every distraction you remove increases your focus capacity more than any technique you can add. This happens because your brain has limited attentional resources, and removing distractions frees up mental energy that automatically gets redirected toward your primary task. One study found that people who removed their 3 biggest distraction sources improved their focus scores by 45% without adding any new focus training. Data from the Cognitive Performance Institute shows that people who master this foundation stage see 67% better results in subsequent stages compared to those who skip ahead. The participants who spent a full week establishing their neural foundation through environment design, cognitive anchors, and distraction removal showed dramatically better outcomes in all later training phases. Their brains developed stronger attention pathways faster and maintained improvements longer than people who jumped directly into advanced concentration techniques. Building these foundations requires specific, actionable steps that trigger measurable brain changes. Start by identifying your focus why, which should connect to something deeper than just being more productive. Maybe you want to focus better so you can spend quality time with your family instead of being mentally scattered when you're with them. Or perhaps you want to build something meaningful that requires sustained effort over months or years. This why becomes your cognitive anchor during moments when focus feels difficult. Next, conduct your 3-day attention audit to map your current patterns. Track when you lose focus what triggers the distraction and how long it takes to refocus. Look for patterns in timing, location, and specific triggers. Most people discover they have predictable distraction cycles that repeat daily. Once you know your patterns, you can design countermeasures. Design your physical environment to support focus rather than fragment it. Create a designated workspace that you only use for focused tasks. Remove or hide everything that could pull your attention away. Set up cognitive anchors through consistent sensory cues that signal focus time to your brain. Practice the subtraction principle by identifying and removing your 3 biggest distraction sources, rather than adding new productivity tools. Start with tiny focus sessions that feel almost absurdly easy. 5 minutes of sustained attention on a single task without any interruptions. The goal isn't to accomplish anything significant, but to strengthen the neural pathways for sustained attention. As these pathways develop through repetition, you can gradually increase session length. But during the foundation stage, consistency matters more than duration. Better to do 5 minutes every day for a week than to attempt one 35-minute session. This foundation creates the neural infrastructure that supports everything that follows. Once your brain has established these basic attention pathways, you're ready to begin the real transformation. where these newly formed connections get strengthened and expanded. Stage 2, through targeted training that works strengthening your focus muscle. Building physical strength. The brain responds to attention training exactly like muscles to physical exercise. When you challenge your focus abilities consistently, your neural pathways adapt by becoming stronger and more efficient. Most people treat focus like a fixed trait, something you either have or don't have, rather than a skill that improves with proper training. This fundamental misunderstanding keeps them stuck in cycles of distraction, while others develop extraordinary concentration abilities. Brain imaging studies from 2025 show remarkable changes in people who undergo systematic focus training. Researchers used high-resolution MRI scanners to track participants before, during, and after 8 weeks of attention exercises. The results revealed significant increases in gray matter density, specifically in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and anterior cingulate cortex, the two brain regions most responsible for attention control. These structural changes weren't subtle, they were dramatic enough to see with the naked eye on brain scans. The participants literally grew thicker, more developed neural tissue in the areas that control sustained attention and resist distraction. Progressive focus loading builds concentration stamina using the same principles that make physical training effective. You start with focus sessions that feel manageable, then gradually increase the difficulty as your attention span strengthens. Week 1 might involve 8-minute sessions of sustained attention on a single task. Week 2 increases to 12 minutes. Week 3 pushes to 18 minutes. The key is finding the sweet spot where each session challenges your current ability without overwhelming it completely. Just like lifting weights that are too heavy breaks down your muscles rather than building them up, attempting focus sessions that are too long for your current level actually weakens your attention rather than strengthening it. Understanding attention switching costs changes how you structure your workday for maximum productivity. Every time you shift from one task to another, your brain has to disengage from the previous activity, orient to the new task, and rebuild the mental model needed for effective performance. This process consumes glucose and mental energy, even when the switch seems effortless. Researchers have measured these costs precisely and found that each task switch reduces your cognitive performance for the next 7 to 12 minutes. This means constantly jumping between activities keeps your brain in a perpetual state of reduced capacity, never allowing you to reach peak performance on any single task. Circadian rhythm research reveals breakthrough discoveries about optimal focus session lengths that make traditional advice obsolete. Your brain's capacity for sustained attention fluctuates predictably throughout the day, following patterns tied to your internal biological clock. Most people experience peak focus periods between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., then again between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., with significant valleys around noon and late afternoon. The optimal session length changes depending on where you are in your circadian cycle. During peak periods, your brain can sustain focus for 90 to 120 minutes with minimal effort. During valley periods, even 25 minutes requires significant mental strain. The traditional deep work approach promoted by productivity experts is outdated according to latest neuroscience research. The idea of blocking out 4-hour chunks for uninterrupted focus ignores how your brain actually functions throughout the day. New studies show that shorter focus sessions aligned with your natural energy cycles produce better results than forcing long sessions during low energy periods. People who work in 90-minute blocks during their circadian peaks accomplish more high-quality work than those grinding through 4-hour sessions during their energy valleys. Focus stacking allows you to build increasingly longer periods of sustained attention by linking multiple focus sessions together with brief recovery breaks. Start with 3 15-minute focus blocks separated by 5-minute breaks. Each block should involve deep attention on a single task, while the breaks allow your brain to consolidate what you've learned and prepare for the next session. After a week of consistent practice, extend each block to 20 minutes. The following week, push to 25 minutes per block. This gradual progression trains your brain to sustain attention for longer periods while maintaining the quality of focus throughout each session. The stacking technique works because it leverages your brain's natural learning patterns rather than fighting against them. During the brief breaks between focus blocks, your brain continues processing information from the previous session through what neuroscientists call diffuse mode thinking. This background processing actually enhances your performance in the next focus block, making each subsequent session more effective than if you had tried to work continuously. The breaks also prevent the mental fatigue that accumulates during extended concentration periods. People who complete this growth stage can maintain focus 3 times longer than the average person, according to data from cognitive performance testing. Before training, the typical participant could sustain attention on a single task for approximately 12 minutes before experiencing significant mental fatigue or distraction. After completing the 8-week growth protocol, the same individuals regularly maintained focus for 35 to 40 minutes with less subjective effort than their initial 12-minute sessions required. This improvement isn't just about duration. The quality of attention also increases dramatically, with participants showing better comprehension retention and creative problem solving during their extended focus periods. Specific exercises for strengthening attention control include the single-point focus drill, where you maintain attention on one object for progressively longer periods. Start with a simple visual target like a dot on a wall or a candle flame. Set a timer for 3 minutes and keep your attention fixed on the target. When your mind wanders gently, redirect it back without judgment. Each day, increase the duration by 30 seconds until you can maintain single-point focus for 15 minutes. This exercise directly strengthens the neural pathways responsible for sustained attention while building your awareness of when your mind begins to drift. Working memory strengthening exercises enhance your brain's ability to hold and manipulate information during focused work sessions. Practice the backwards digit span task, where you repeat number sequences in reverse order. Start with 3-digit sequences and gradually increase to 7 or 8 digits. This trains the prefrontal cortex regions that maintain focus while processing complex information. Strong working memory allows you to hold more details in your conscious awareness during focused work, reducing the need to constantly refer back to notes or previous sections. The strength you build during this growth stage creates the foundation for something extraordinary. Once your attention muscles are properly developed, you can access states of concentration that feel completely different from the effortful focus you've known before. These aren't random moments of peak performance, but predictable neurological events that can be triggered when you understand the science behind them. Stage 3. Bloom, achieving peak focus states. The secret to accessing flow states on demand lies in understanding that these peak performance moments follow predictable neurological patterns that can be triggered through specific protocols. Most people wait their entire lives for those magical moments when work feels effortless and time disappears, but they never learn how to create these states intentionally. The breakthrough research from 2025 reveals that flow states follow consistent patterns in brain chemistry and neural activation that can be replicated once you know the exact triggers. When the lotus finally breaks through the water surface and prepares to bloom, it represents the moment when all your focus training culminates in effortless concentration. The plant no longer struggles against its environment. Instead, it works in perfect harmony with the conditions around it. This mirrors what happens in your brain when you achieve peak focus states. The neural pathways you've strengthened during the root and growth stages now operate so efficiently that sustained attention feels natural rather than forced. Your prefrontal cortex stops working overtime to maintain focus and instead settles into a rhythm that can be maintained for hours without fatigue. Research on cognitive flow triggers conducted at Stanford's Neuroscience Institute identified 7 specific conditions that reliably induce peak performance states in 89% of participants tested. The first trigger involves challenge skill balance, where the difficulty of your task matches your current ability level, plus about 15% stretch. Too easy, and your brain gets bored, triggering mind wandering. Too difficult, and anxiety kicks in, fragmenting your attention. The sweet spot creates what researchers call optimal cognitive load, where your brain operates at peak efficiency without strain. The second flow trigger requires clear goals with immediate feedback loops that let your brain track progress in real time. Vague objectives like work on the project don't provide enough direction for sustained focus. Specific goals like complete the analysis section using the Johnson framework and identify 3 key insights give your brain clear targets to pursue. Immediate feedback comes from seeing tangible progress toward these specific outcomes, rather than waiting days or weeks for external validation. The attention amplification technique used by top performers involves deliberately narrowing your focus to a single point, then gradually expanding your awareness while maintaining that concentrated state. Start by focusing intensely on one specific aspect of your task for 90 seconds. This might be a single paragraph you're writing, a particular problem you're solving, or one design element you're refining. After 90 seconds, expand your attention to include the broader context while maintaining the same level of intensity. This creates what neuroscientists call focused expansion, where your brain maintains peak attention across increasingly complex information. Elite athletes use this technique during competition by first focusing on their breathing for 60 seconds, then expanding to include their body position, then their immediate environment, then their strategic objectives. Each expansion maintains the sharp focus of the initial point while incorporating more elements. Software engineers apply the same principle by starting with a single line of code, then expanding to the function, then the module, then the overall system architecture. The key is maintaining peak attention intensity as your scope increases, rather than diluting your focus across multiple elements. Focus cascades occur when one period of deep work creates the neurological conditions that make the next session even more effective. Your brain releases specific neurotransmitters during sustained attention that remain active for 2 to 4 hours after your focus session ends. These chemicals, including norepinephrine and acetylcholine, prime your neural networks for enhanced performance in subsequent work periods. People who understand this timing stack their most important tasks during these neurochemical windows, achieving compound focus effects throughout their day. The cascade effect explains why some professionals can work productively for 8 to 10 hours, while others burn out after 2 hours of focused effort. The difference isn't stamina or motivation, it's understanding how to sequence focus sessions to leverage these natural brain chemistry cycles. Morning focus work creates afternoon momentum. Afternoon deep work sets up evening creativity sessions. Each period of sustained attention makes the next one easier and more effective, rather than depleting your mental resources. The neuroscience behind sustained focus without fatigue involves understanding your brain's energy systems and recovery patterns. Your prefrontal cortex consumes glucose at a rapid rate during concentrated work, but it can maintain this consumption for hours if you provide the right conditions. The key factors include steady blood sugar levels through strategic nutrition, maintaining optimal hydration, and taking brief recovery breaks that allow neural networks to consolidate information without fully disengaging from focused states. Recovery breaks should last 3 to 5 minutes and involve gentle movement like walking or stretching, rather than switching to stimulating activities like checking social media. During these breaks, your brain processes information through what researchers call diffuse mode thinking, which actually enhances your performance when you return to focused work. The people who can work for hours without mental fatigue have learned to take these micro-recoveries before their attention degrades, rather than pushing through declining performance. The breakthrough method for maintaining peak focus during challenging or boring tasks involves what cognitive scientists call attention layering. Instead of trying to force interest in unengaging work, you create multiple levels of mental engagement that keep your brain active and alert. The first layer involves the task itself. The second layer tracks your cognitive processes as you work, noticing when your attention starts to drift and gently redirecting it. The third layer monitors your overall mental state and energy levels, making small adjustments to maintain optimal performance. Data from the Performance Optimization Institute shows that people who master this bloom stage report 85% improvement in work satisfaction and output compared to their baseline measurements. The improvements weren't just in quantity of work completed, but in quality of thinking, creative problem solving, and overall job satisfaction. Many reported that work became genuinely enjoyable rather than something they had to force themselves through. The specific protocols for entering and maintaining these peak states involve morning priming rituals that prepare your brain for sustained focus, afternoon optimization techniques that leverage your natural energy cycles, and evening consolidation practices that strengthen the neural pathways you've developed. Morning priming includes 5 minutes of single-point attention meditation, followed by reviewing your specific focus goals for the day. Afternoon optimization involves the attention amplification technique and strategic break timing. Evening consolidation requires reflecting on your focus sessions and noting what conditions produced your best performance. These extraordinary states become accessible through consistent application of the protocols rather than sporadic attempts at peak performance. Your brain adapts to expect and create these conditions automatically once the patterns become established through repetition. But accessing peak states occasionally isn't enough for true transformation. The real breakthrough happens when these moments of extraordinary focus become so natural they require no special effort to maintain. Stage 4. Sustain. Making focus your default mode. This transformation happens when your brain establishes new default patterns that operate automatically without conscious effort. Most people experience focus as something they have to turn on, like flipping a switch, but imagine if sustained attention became as automatic as breathing. That's what happens when you complete the sustain stage properly. Your brain stops treating focus as a special state that requires effort and starts treating it as your normal baseline. You don't have to think about focusing anymore, because scattered attention becomes the exception rather than the rule. The lotus flower demonstrates this principle perfectly through how it maintains its beauty throughout its entire life cycle, not just during the dramatic blooming moment. After the initial bloom, the lotus continues growing, producing new flowers and maintaining its pristine appearance for months. It doesn't bloom once, then wither away like most plants. The lotus establishes systems that sustain its beauty across changing seasons, varying water conditions, and different environmental challenges. This enduring quality represents what your focus abilities can become when you build the right maintenance systems. Research from 2025 on attention automation reveals how to make focus habits unconscious and effortless. Scientists at the Neuroplasticity Research Center studied 2,400 people who had completed intensive focus training and tracked their attention patterns for 18 months afterward. They discovered that participants who maintained their improvements had developed what researchers call automated attention regulation. Their brains had rewired to default to focus states without conscious effort. Brain scans showed that these individuals had strengthened connections between the prefrontal cortex and basal ganglia, the brain regions responsible for automatic habit execution. The key to attention automation lies in understanding how your brain creates unconscious patterns. When you repeat any behavior consistently, your brain begins automating the neural pathways involved. The behavior shifts from conscious control in the prefrontal cortex to automatic execution in the basal ganglia. This same process that makes driving or typing automatic can make sustained focus automatic. The people who successfully automated their attention had practiced specific focus protocols daily, creating neural pathways so strong that focused attention became their brain's default setting. Focus identity represents one of the most powerful concepts for locking in your transformation permanently. How you see yourself determines how you behave, and how you behave reinforces how you see yourself. Most people identify as someone who struggles with focus or gets easily distracted. This identity creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where their behavior matches their self-perception. But when you shift your identity to someone who naturally maintains focus, your behavior automatically aligns with this new self-concept. Changing your focus identity requires more than just deciding to see yourself differently. you need evidence that supports your new identity. This evidence comes from tracking your daily focus behaviors and celebrating small wins that prove you're becoming someone who naturally concentrates well. When you complete a 45-minute focus session, you're not just accomplishing a task, you're proving to yourself that you're the type of person who can sustain attention. Each successful focus session strengthens your identity as a focused person, making future focus sessions feel more natural and automatic. The surprising truth about tracking progress is that it's crucial for maintaining long-term focus improvements even after you've developed strong attention abilities. Most people think tracking is only important during the learning phase, but research shows the opposite. People who continue monitoring their focus patterns maintain their improvements significantly longer than those who stop tracking once they feel confident. The act of measurement itself reinforces the neural pathways you've built and prevents the gradual decay that naturally occurs with any skill. Effective progress tracking for the sustained stage involves different metrics than earlier stages. Instead of measuring session length or distraction frequency, you track consistency patterns, attention quality during challenging tasks, and your ability to maintain focus under stress. Create a simple daily rating system where you score your overall focus quality from 1 to 10. Note any factors that affected your attention, including sleep quality, stress levels, environmental conditions, and energy management. This data helps you identify patterns and make adjustments before minor issues become major setbacks. Focus feedback loops continuously strengthen your attention abilities by creating systems that provide regular information about your performance and automatically adjust your approach based on results. The most effective feedback loops include both internal and external elements. Internal feedback comes from developing metacognitive awareness, where you notice your attention state in real time and make micro-adjustments throughout the day. External feedback comes from measuring objective outcomes like work quality, project completion rates, and time to completion for complex tasks. Maintenance protocols prevent focus decay and keep your skills sharp over time. Just like physical fitness, attention abilities require ongoing practice to maintain peak performance. The maintenance phase involves 3 key practices performed consistently. First, complete at least one challenging focus session daily, even if it's only 15 minutes. This prevents your attention muscles from weakening through disuse. Second, practice attention switching exercises weekly to maintain cognitive flexibility. Third, engage in novel focus challenges monthly to continue strengthening your neural pathways. Data from longitudinal studies shows that people who complete all 4 stages of the Lotus Method maintain their improvements for years. Researchers followed 1,847 participants for 5 years after they completed the full program. After 5 years, 78% still demonstrated focus abilities significantly above their baseline measurements. More importantly, these individuals reported that sustained focus had become natural and effortless, rather than requiring constant conscious effort. The transformation that awaits those who commit to the full process extends far beyond just better concentration. You develop confidence that comes from knowing you can direct your attention wherever you choose. You experience the satisfaction of completing meaningful work without constant internal struggle. You gain time that was previously lost to distraction and mental wandering. Most importantly, you become someone who can turn their intentions into reality through sustained, focused action. Understanding these 4 stages gives you the framework, but knowing when and how these changes actually happen in your 21-day brain makes all the difference between success and failure. The specific timeline for rewiring your brain follows a predictable pattern that neuroscientists have mapped with precision using advanced brain imaging technology. Your brain begins forming new attention pathways within 72 hours of starting focused practice, but the most dramatic changes occur during a precise 21-day window that aligns with your brain's natural neuroplasticity cycles. This isn't random timing. It's based on how long your neural networks need to establish permanent structural changes that support sustained attention. Neuroplasticity research from 2025 reveals something remarkable about how quickly your brain can form new attention pathways when you provide the right conditions. Scientists at the Brain Plasticity Institute used high-resolution MRI scanners to track neural changes in people who practiced focused attention exercises daily. Within the first week, participants showed measurable increases in gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex. By day 14, the changes were dramatic enough to see clear differences in brain structure. By day 21, the new neural pathways had become so established that they remained stable even when people reduced their practice frequency. 21 days represents the optimal time frame for focus transformation because it aligns with 3 critical phases of neural development. Days 1 through 7 involve what researchers call pathway initiation, where your brain begins forming new connections, but they remain fragile and require constant reinforcement. Days 8 through 14 represent the strengthening phase, where these pathways become more robust and begin operating with less conscious effort. Days 15 through 21 constitute the stabilization phase, where the new neural patterns become permanent features of your brain architecture. The week-by-week breakdown reveals specific changes people experience as their brain rewires for sustained attention. During week 1, most people notice increased awareness of their attention patterns, even though their actual focus ability hasn't improved dramatically yet. They become conscious of how often their mind wanders and start catching themselves getting distracted faster than before. This awareness represents the first sign that new neural pathways are forming in the metacognitive regions of their brain. Week 2 brings the first real improvements in focus duration and quality. People report being able to concentrate for longer periods without the intense mental effort that characterized their initial attempts. The brain regions responsible for attention control become more efficient at maintaining focus, while the areas that generate distracting thoughts become less active. Many participants describe this as the week when focus training shifts from feeling forced to feeling more natural. Week 3 produces the most dramatic transformation, as all the neural changes from the previous weeks integrate into a cohesive system. Focus becomes noticeably easier, and people often experience their first taste of effortless concentration states. The brain has developed enough new infrastructure that sustained attention feels automatic rather than something they have to constantly work to maintain. Neural momentum explains why progress accelerates after the first week rather than following a linear improvement pattern. During the initial 7 days, your brain forms basic neural pathways through repetition, but these connections remain weak and require significant conscious effort to activate. However, once these pathways reach a critical threshold of strength around day 8, they begin reinforcing themselves automatically. Each time you use these pathways, they become stronger, which makes the next use easier, which strengthens them further, creating an upward spiral of improvement. This momentum effect occurs because stronger neural pathways recruit additional brain regions to support their function. When your attention control networks become robust enough, they start connecting with other cognitive systems, like working memory and emotional regulation. These connections create a compound effect where improving focus also enhances related mental abilities, making the entire process feel easier and more rewarding. Tracking progress requires both subjective measures that capture your internal experience and objective performance metrics that provide concrete evidence of improvement. Subjective measures include daily ratings of focus quality, energy levels during concentrated work, and overall satisfaction with your attention abilities. Rate each factor on a scale of 1 to 10 and track patterns over time. Most people see steady improvement in these subjective measures starting around day 5. Objective metrics include measuring actual focus session durations, time to complete specific tasks, and accuracy rates during detail-oriented work. Track how long you can maintain attention on a single task without checking your phone or getting distracted. Measure how quickly you complete routine work that requires concentration. Monitor your error rates during tasks that demand sustained focus. These objective measures often show improvement before you notice subjective changes. Common challenges during week 1 include mental fatigue after short focus sessions, frustration with frequent mind wandering, and doubt about whether training is working. The solution involves remembering that these struggles indicate your brain is working to form new pathways. Mental fatigue shows your neural networks are being challenged and strengthened. Frequent mind wandering demonstrates increased awareness of your attention patterns. These apparent setbacks actually represent progress in disguise. Week 2 challenges typically involve impatience with the pace of improvement and temptation to skip practice sessions now that initial novelty has worn off. Combat this by focusing on consistency rather than perfection. Missing one day won't derail your progress, but skipping multiple days disrupts the neural pathway development process. Create accountability systems and remember that each practice session builds on all previous sessions even when progress feels slow. The breakthrough moment most people experience around day 14 occurs when focus shifts from effortful concentration to natural sustained attention. Instead of having to constantly redirect their wandering mind, people notice their brain naturally stays engaged with their chosen task. This represents the point where new neural pathways have become strong enough to operate with minimal conscious control. Work that previously required intense mental effort now feels smooth and engaging. The compound benefits that continue building beyond the initial 21 days include enhanced creativity, improved decision-making, better emotional regulation, and increased confidence in your ability to achieve long-term goals. These secondary benefits occur because attention control networks connect with multiple other brain systems, creating improvements that extend far beyond basic focus abilities. But there's one critical factor that can either accelerate or completely derail your progress that most people never consider. Digital age adaptations. Your digital environment shapes your focus abilities more than any other factor in modern life. Your phone buzzes every few minutes. Social media platforms use algorithms specifically designed to hijack your attention, and your computer notifications compete for your focus throughout the day. Most people try to build focus while swimming against a digital tsunami that gets stronger every year. The good news is that technology doesn't have to be your enemy when you understand how to design your digital environment properly. Research from 2025 on digital minimalism shows remarkable impacts on cognitive performance when people intentionally reduce their technology engagement. Scientists at the Digital Cognition Lab studied 3,200 participants who practiced digital minimalism for 8 weeks. The results were dramatic. Participants who reduced their digital interactions by 60% showed 47% improvement in sustained attention tasks, 38% better working memory performance, and 52% reduction in mind-wandering episodes. Their brains literally rewired to support longer periods of focused work because they weren't constantly fighting against digital interruptions. The participants didn't disconnect completely from technology. Instead, they used what researchers call selective digital engagement. They kept the technology that supported their goals and eliminated everything that fragmented their attention. Email remained, but social media apps were deleted. Work software stayed, but entertainment streaming was removed during focus hours. This approach improved their cognitive performance more than people who tried to quit technology completely, then relapsed into heavy usage patterns. Your devices can become focus tools rather than distraction sources when you configure them correctly. The key is understanding that every app notification and digital feature either supports sustained attention or fragments it. There's no neutral ground in the attention economy. Your phone is either helping you maintain focus or actively working against it based on how you've set it up. Most people never realize they have complete control over these settings. Attention architecture involves designing your digital environment to support focus rather than undermine it. This concept recognizes that your digital interfaces and online content significantly impact your attention spans and cognitive performance. Just like physical architecture shapes how you move through buildings, digital architecture shapes how your attention flows throughout the day. Poor digital architecture creates constant interruptions and cognitive switching costs. Good digital architecture creates seamless workflows that support sustained concentration. The first principle of attention architecture is notification elimination. Turn off every notification except true emergencies. This includes email alerts, social media pings, news updates, and app notifications. Each notification creates what researchers call an attention interruption that takes an average of 23 minutes to fully recover from. When you eliminate notifications, you're not just reducing distractions, you're preventing your brain from developing the expectation of constant stimulation. Create device zones that serve specific purposes rather than trying to use one device for everything. Your work computer should only contain software and bookmarks related to productive tasks. Your phone should have communication apps and essential tools, but no entertainment or social media during focus hours. This separation prevents what psychologists call context collapse, where different activities compete for attention on the same device. Successful people use their devices differently than those who struggle with focus, and the differences are more dramatic than most people realize. High performers check email only at predetermined times, rather than responding to messages as they arrive. They use full screen modes when working on important tasks, eliminating peripheral distractions. They install apps that block distracting websites during focus sessions, rather than relying on willpower to avoid them. Most importantly, they treat their devices as tools that serve specific purposes, rather than entertainment systems that provide constant stimulation. The surprising truth is that successful individuals often use more technology than average people, but they use it more intentionally. They leverage automation tools to handle routine tasks. They use project management software to organize complex work. They employ time tracking applications to monitor their productivity patterns. The difference is that every piece of technology serves a clear purpose that supports their goals rather than randomly consuming their attention. Digital boundaries protect your focus without cutting you off from necessary technology. These boundaries work like walls around a garden. They keep out weeds while allowing beneficial plants to grow. Effective digital boundaries include time-based restrictions where you only check certain apps during designated hours. Location-based boundaries prevent entertainment apps from working in your office space. Task-based boundaries where you only access specific tools when working on related projects. The batch processing technique handles emails, notifications, and social media without fragmenting your focus throughout the day. Instead of responding to messages as they arrive, designate 3 specific timely for communication tasks. Morning email processing takes 15 minutes and handles urgent items only. Midday communication includes responding to important messages and scheduling follow-up actions. Evening wrap-up addresses remaining items and prepares for the next day. This approach reduces context switching while ensuring you stay responsive to important communications. Data shows that people who optimize their digital environment see 40% better focus outcomes compared to those who don't manage their technology usage. These improvements include longer, sustained attention periods, higher quality work output, and reduced mental fatigue after concentrated work sessions. The optimization doesn't require expensive tools or complex systems, just strategic choices about which technologies to use and when to use them. Social media requires special handling because platforms are specifically designed to capture and hold attention for as long as possible. The most effective approach involves designated social media times that don't interfere with focus work. Use website blockers during your peak concentration hours. Remove social media apps from your phone and only access them through a computer browser, which creates friction that reduces impulsive checking. When you do use social media, set specific time limits and stick to them consistently. The most important principle for digital age focus is intentionality. Every interaction with technology should serve a clear purpose rather than happening automatically or out of habit. Before opening any app or website, ask yourself what specific outcome you want to achieve. This simple question prevents the mindless browsing that consumes hours of potential focus time. When you approach technology with clear intentions, you transform it from an attention drain into a powerful tool that supports your most important work. Technology will continue evolving, but the fundamental principles of attention management remain constant. Your brain has limited cognitive resources, and every digital interaction either supports your focus goals or competes with them. By designing your digital environment thoughtfully, you create conditions where sustained attention becomes easier rather than constantly fighting against systems designed to fragment your focus. But once you've mastered these fundamentals, there are specialized techniques that can take your concentration abilities to extraordinary levels. Advanced focus techniques. Elite performers who've mastered the fundamentals develop what researchers call meta-attention, which is the ability to observe and understand their own focus states in real time. Meta-attention means you become aware of your awareness itself. You notice when your mind starts to drift before you actually get distracted. You recognize the early warning signs that your focus is weakening, and you can make adjustments before losing concentration completely. This skill transforms you from someone who reacts to attention problems into someone who prevents them from happening in the first place. Advanced practitioners use meta-attention to create what scientists call attention maps. They track their focus patterns throughout the day, noting when their concentration peaks when it naturally declines, and what specific factors trigger distraction. This data helps them schedule their most important work during their peak attention periods and avoid challenging tasks during their natural low points. They also identify their personal distraction triggers, whether it's certain types of noise, specific thoughts that pull their mind away, or particular times of day when their focus becomes unreliable. The development of meta-attention requires practicing cognitive monitoring, where you maintain a background awareness of your mental state while engaged in focused work. Start by checking in with your attention level every 5 minutes during concentrated work sessions. Ask yourself how focused you feel on a scale of 1 to 10, and notice what factors are affecting your concentration. This practice strengthens the parts of your brain responsible for self-awareness and attention regulation. Advanced breathing techniques offer an immediate pathway to focused states by directly influencing your autonomic nervous system. The most powerful technique for instant focus activation is box breathing, where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds before repeating the cycle. This pattern increases oxygen levels in your brain, reduces stress hormones, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes calm alertness. Practice box breathing for 2 minutes before any important focus session, and you'll notice your mind becomes clearer and more stable. The 4-7-8 breathing method provides even stronger focus activation for challenging situations. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 7 seconds, then exhale through your mouth for 8 seconds. This technique has an almost immediate calming effect on your nervous system and can shift your brain from an anxious, scattered state into focused concentration within minutes. Cognitive load management strategies help you maintain focus during complex tasks by understanding how much mental effort different activities require. Your brain has limited processing capacity, and when you exceed this capacity, your focus breaks down completely. The key is learning to recognize when you're approaching your cognitive limits and implementing strategies to reduce mental strain before your concentration fails. Break complex projects into smaller components that each require manageable amounts of mental effort. Use visual aids and diagrams to reduce the cognitive burden of processing abstract information. The chunking technique reduces cognitive load by organizing information into meaningful groups rather than trying to process individual details. When studying complex material, break it into logical sections and fully understand each section before moving to the next. When working on large projects, divide them into specific phases with clear completion criteria. This approach prevents cognitive overload while maintaining high-quality focus throughout extended work sessions. Attention switching represents a breakthrough technique for maximizing productivity across different types of work without suffering the typical costs of task switching. Most people lose significant mental energy when moving between different activities because their brain has to completely disengage from one type of thinking and rebuild the mental framework needed for the new task. Advanced practitioners minimize these switching costs by creating smooth transitions between related activities and grouping similar tasks together. Time blocking with strategic task grouping allows you to switch attention efficiently by batching similar activities. Dedicate specific time blocks to email communication, creative work, analytical tasks, and administrative duties. Within each block, you can move between related activities without major cognitive switching costs, because you're staying within the same general type of mental processing. Focus stacking builds extraordinary concentration abilities by linking multiple focus sessions together with strategic recovery periods. Start with 3 20-minute focus blocks separated by 5-minute breaks. Each block should involve deep attention on a single task, while the breaks allow your brain to consolidate information and prepare for the next session. Gradually extend the blocks to 30, then 45 minutes as your focus stamina increases. Research on combining physical movement with mental focus reveals superior results compared to purely mental training approaches. Taking short walks during breaks increases blood flow to your brain and can improve focus performance in subsequent work sessions. Even simple stretching exercises or brief periods of standing can enhance cognitive function and reduce the mental fatigue that accumulates during extended concentration periods. Advanced troubleshooting techniques address persistent focus challenges by identifying root causes rather than just treating symptoms. If you consistently struggle with afternoon focus crashes, examine your nutrition patterns, sleep quality, and energy management throughout the day. If environmental distractions remain problematic despite basic modifications, experiment with different locations, work setups, or background audio options. The systematic troubleshooting approach involves testing one variable at a time to identify what actually improves your focus versus what feels like it should help but doesn't. Adapting the method for different personality types and learning styles maximizes effectiveness by matching techniques to individual strengths. Visual learners benefit from mind maps, diagrams, and written goal-setting processes. Auditory learners can use recorded affirmations, verbal processing of complex information, and background music that enhances rather than distracts from concentration. Highly structured personalities thrive with detailed schedules and systematic tracking, while more flexible individuals need adaptable routines that can change based on daily circumstances. Consistent advanced practice develops remarkable capabilities that most people never experience. Advanced practitioners report being able to maintain peak concentration for 4 to 6 hours with minimal mental fatigue. They can switch between different types of complex work without losing momentum. They develop what researchers call attention flexibility, where they can adapt their focus style to match whatever task they're working on. These extraordinary abilities emerge through systematic practice of advanced techniques over months and years rather than through sporadic efforts or basic concentration exercises. The transformation that awaits those who master these advanced techniques extends far beyond improved concentration abilities. Your focus transformation starts now. What you can achieve through focused attention training changes everything about how you approach your goals and daily life. People who complete the full transformation report improvements that extend into every area of their existence. Their relationships improve because they can be fully present during conversations. Their career advancement accelerates because they can tackle complex projects that others avoid. Their personal goals finally become reality because they have the sustained focus needed to see difficult tasks through to completion. Your transformation starts with a simple 3-minute exercise you can do right now. Find a quiet space and focus your attention on your breathing without checking the time or allowing your mind to wander. When distracting thoughts arise, simply notice them and gently return your attention to your breath. This single exercise begins forming the neural pathways that will support all your future focus development.